Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Autumn Abroad. On this episode, I'll be talking about how we found a rental property in London and what the process is to rent property in London versus the US. We do have a special guest today. Husband is here. He was the one who was actually overseas looking at properties, working with a leasing agent or a letting agent, as they call it over there. And so he's here to give his insight and to share with us his experience. We actually worked with a letting agent who specialized in pet friendly units. We found a company
Mhm.
in the UK. The company's name was PetLets.
PetsLets.
PetsLets. And he used to work in real estate.
Mhm.
So he has a lot of connections with the buildings and the property managers. He was such a good
Yeah.
resource to get us on the right foot and then help us eventually find a place.
Mhm.
We were told that landlords in the UK are very selective about which pets they allow to live in their units,
Mhm.
where here in the US, if you have a pet, they don't ask to see it. They don't need to know anything about it. They just need to know you have a pet so they can charge you the pet fee.
Mhm.
But in the UK, we gave Russell at PetsLets, we gave him a resume we created for our dog where it had a referral from our last building of we paid rent on time. She didn't destroy the place. We had to have a picture of our family so they could sort of get to know us a little bit before actually meeting us as tenants. It was a lot more work
Mhm.
than I've ever had to do finding a rental property in Chicago.
Searching with the pet filter, there just was not much, especially anywhere near the city center. I was looking way out on the outskirts of greater London to try to find places because nothing any closer was popping up. And whatever did pop up, it didn't look very good. And the first call I had with Russell, he said, turn off that filter. He said, it means nothing. Nobody sets that it's pet friendly. It's because London's such a competitive market. They don't have to accept pets. They can just say, we don't accept pets, and someone's going to end up coming by soon and renting the place without a pet anyways. Having Russell and his connections to the letting agents, it's like you could basically skip up and they would push for us specifically over other tenants. It was amazing. Like, I have no idea how we would have found a place in time without that if we had just decided to go on our own.
Yeah, it was a great experience working with Russell and PetsLets. Before Ian even went over to the UK, we had a call with Russell
Hmm.
and we chatted about kind of what we were looking for in a unit, what kind of neighborhood we're looking at, what's our vibe. And he sent us a few places to check out.
Hmm.
And so before you went to the UK, it gave you a little bit of a starting point of
Hmm.
where to look for neighborhoods.
Yeah, he was critical to this whole process. Without him, I don't know how we would have found a place in the week that I was there. Because a week, it was just a mad dash to try to tour places, find places, negotiate, and make sure that by the time I flew out, which was less than a week later, that we had a lease basically signed. He took off all the responsibility of looking for places, arranging showings, and doing any negotiation. He would work with the letting agents who would work with the landlords.
Let's talk about the timeline. Love a
Hmm.
good timeline. We essentially had a week to find a rental property. Ian flew in on Saturday morning. He got in to London and he couldn't look at any properties on the weekend because of the timing of the offices. And so Ian spent Saturday and Sunday essentially getting a feel of the neighborhoods. He walked the neighborhoods. How close are they to transit? Are there parks and playgrounds and grocery stores? And are there families? Are there kids? Or is it just bars and college kids? And then once Monday came, the week you were there, you basically had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then you were flying home Friday. So
Right.
you literally had 4 days
Yep.
to find us a rental property. And not to jump too far ahead, but we were coming down to the wire and we're like, Ian, what do we do if we can't find a place by Friday? And he's like, I'm just going to extend my trip because we can't leave here without a lease. Like, that's how badly we needed to find an
Mhm.
apartment
Yeah.
each day. So, Monday through Thursday, you saw what, 6 or 7 properties a day?
Yeah, something like that.
And the night before, Russell from PetsLets, he would send you and I an itinerary of all the showings that Ian
Mhm.
was going to see the next day. And Ian was able to say, scratch that one off. Can I see this one instead? Every single night, Ian would call me and we would converse and strategize. And Ian was on Rightmove every night, sending Russell more properties that he found.
The first couple of days was all over the place. Russell had thought right off the bat that the best fit for us would be Clapham, which was a neighborhood I had not really heard of and not seen much in my research. The location seems good. It's close to the city center. It's just southwest of the city center off of the northern line. It's full of young families, people with young kids. When I went down there to check it out, it felt like a great fit. Even before I had seen any properties, I was just walking through the common, and it was a Sunday. It was a nice like early October day, and you had all these kids out riding their bikes and people walking dogs. Dogs were off leash running through the greens, and like this really would be a great fit for us. The green spaces in London, just in general, are amazing.
What we found, it has basically everything we were looking for. And
Mm,
so I feel very fortunate that we were able to find this and work with the owners to negotiate a contract.
yeah.
We have a private entrance, we have the whole place to ourselves. It's sort of like a duplex here in the US. And it's close to transit, it's close to a playground and a park and a groomer and a vet and a grocery store
And a good pizza place.
and a great pizza place and schools. And so I'm
Yeah.
really excited to check out the neighborhood. This was the best place that we both really liked. It's
Mhm.
functional for our family. We're actually really excited about
Yeah.
it. I think it's nicer than our Chicago condo, which is crazy. The process to actually rent that property was like buying property here in the US. Everything on the contract is negotiable. And Russell from PetsLets was giving us tips on how to make us more attractive as tenants. They have break clauses in the UK. You can negotiate what's furnished, you can negotiate timeline. It
Yeah.
was a little overwhelming to have so many choices that you needed to agree on in order for the owner to accept us as tenants for the
Yeah.
units. Fully furnished essentially means that the current tenant is leaving things behind. After 14 days, those items are considered abandoned by the tenant and they're the owner's property. We were able to get almost all the furniture from the current tenant. They're leaving everything behind, which is exactly what we were looking for. Break clauses, Russell was explaining to us, is a thing in the UK, which I've never heard of here in the US. I
It
don't know if we
could
have
be a thing.
them.
I've never, yeah, run into it.
We originally are going to start out living in the UK for 1 year. So, with that said, typically we sign a 1 year lease, and then leading up to that year, we decide are we staying or not. The break clause, he said, do a 2 year lease with a 1 month break
1 year
clause.
big clause.
So you can essentially, after that first year, you can leave if you want. At the end of the day, you are a more attractive tenant because you want to stay for 2 years on paper instead of just sign a year lease, which is kind of like a loophole.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's unnecessary, but it works. I don't know.
Yeah.
With this property that we found, Ian saw it on Tuesday.
Mhm.
And we originally said no because the owners have been trying to sell this property since what, March?
Since March.
Since March. And when we saw it, they hadn't had a showing in over a month. In order for this owner to accept tenants, they wanted to give us a 6 month break clause. They have to give us 2 months' notice before that break clause. 4 months into our lease, they could say, hey, we sold the place. You need to be out in 6 months. And then we have to do this whole process over again.
Mhm.
And I said, Ian, I'm not doing that. We are putting so much time and effort into this process as it is. I want a full lease for a year. So I said, unless they can do a year, we have to look elsewhere. It's just not worth it. Ian looked elsewhere by Thursday. He's like, Autumn, I haven't really found anything. I really like that one place. Let's see if we can negotiate. So this is kind of where the negotiating was beneficial in our sense because what we ended up doing is we offered more money. So we offered a higher rent than what the listing says. in order to have a year lease that's longer than that 6-month break clause. So we went back to them. It was between us and another family. At the end of the day, they did go with us because of Russell's relationship with
Mhm.
the owner's letting agent. With that said, they agreed to give us a year lease, but with a 10-month break clause.
Right.
So essentially, what that means is they still have to give us that 2 months' notice. So hypothetically, 8 months into our lease, they can give us notice saying that they've sold the place. We need to be out within 10 months. The reason that we went with it is because by 10 months, we should know if we want to stay in the UK long term or not. So if we don't, we will rent an Airbnb for 2 months and then come home. And if we are staying, we can just start look for a new property. That break clause, we ended up extending it because we negotiated price and we offered more money. And
Mhm.
so it's like if we did walk in and it was a flat rate, this is what we're offering,
Yeah.
like we wouldn't have been able to take it. So it did work in our favor,
Mhm.
but I just didn't like the back and forth negotiating.
Mhm.
I want a clear cut answer. And
Yeah.
it was so subjective.
I'm someone who, as soon as I make a decision like that, I tend to get really anxious that maybe I've made the wrong decision. And this is a rare case where I can't think of any reason why, like, I shouldn't have gone for this. I think we really did come away with what I think is the perfect place. I'm really excited for you to go see it.
I think if we do stay long term, or even if we don't, I think this is the best way for us to really test it out. Like, I think we're starting off on a really strong foot.
Mhm.
Once Ian flew home, we were able to complete the rental process in Chicago. And essentially, it was e signing a lot of documents, and they require all tenants to have the right to rent, which essentially means that you have to prove you have enough funds in the bank to cover the rent. And you are either a citizen of the UK or you are accepted on a visa. The lease itself was 21 pages. The lease also came with a 19-page how to rent document for us to review and keep. It essentially talked about how to rent property and what to look for if you've never rented before. And it also gave information on tenant rights, which is super helpful. My husband set up a Weiss bank account, and essentially it is an online bank account. So they don't have any physical branches, but it allows individuals to transfer money from the US to the UK. He set up that bank account so he can pay the deposit and also so we can have some money over there. Eventually, his pay stubs and salary will go into the Weiss account, and I will set one up for myself as well. There were a lot more hoops to jump through to rent property in the UK than I've ever had to do here in the US. Ian's theory is that they do that to prevent tenants and landlords from being in the position of a tenant not having enough money to pay for rent and then the eviction process from the landlord side of things. They try to nip everything in the bud beforehand, before the tenant even moves in. Where here in the US, I feel like we deal with that down the road. As long as a tenant can pay the deposit and first month's rent and sign the papers, we give them the keys. On the next episode of Autumn Abroad, I will be chatting about how we're getting our dog overseas. To follow my family and I on this journey moving from the US to the UK, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Any other video?
Are we done yet?